To give it a couple. All right, Jerry, you are live, and Mario.
We're ready to go. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us. Hope everybody is logged on and we're ready to go and see some neat, exciting things today. First thing I want to tell you is that Mario and I are honoring pink today, as you might notice. And the reason is we thought it was Breast Cancer Awareness Day, but we were wrong. It is Mother's Day 2 days ago. So today we're going to honor the mothers, all the mothers in our company and all the mothers around that's hooked into this internet, and we wore pink in their honor. I do want you to remember that breast cancer awareness is something that you do all year long. So we're going to recommend and encourage you that you go and get your test on a regular basis and take care of yourselves. So, here today we're at the Peter Hans Company, Hantzpro.com. And what we're going to do, Mario and I are going to be doing some hair cutting techniques for you. I'm going to be cutting an asymmetrical for you and going through the step-by-step processes of doing this. Mario's got his other cut, and we'll let him tell you about that in just a few minutes. I want to thank Rachel for being here with us. And one thing I want to tell you about, if you honor us today by registering here at the Hantzpro.com, we're going to send you out a packet of travel size hot, a travel size styling glaze, and a travel size discipline hairspray. So all you have to do is register, mark it on, and we'll send it out to you, give us your information where to ship it, and you will get those products in the mail from us, and we appreciate you tuning in today. I want to go through this and talk about this haircut. This is a asymmetrical haircut, one of the most popular ones to do. There's a lot of variations of it, but what I'm going to do is a softer variation around the bottom. We're going to create a weight line, keeping our hands parallel to this parting. So that's one thing you want to remember. When you're going to do a weight line, you're going to have weighted areas. You're going to take hair down and build up weight and through this. Now, as we go through this whole process, we will continue to do that, and you'll see what we're doing. And then we're going to go in and interior layer the hair. So we're going to have a process that we're going to use where we take everything back to this second design line portion here. And I don't want to get too technical. I just want you to watch what I'm doing, and then go and practice it and copy what I'm doing. Copy it as best you can. The more times you do it, the better you will get. The other unique thing about it is normally I cut this haircut with the shears. Today, I'm going to cut everything in the bottom with the razor. That way I can texture as I go, and I also can build a softer line for the weighted area. So, if you got any questions, please go ahead and text them in. Rachel will relay them to us. We'll answer them as we can. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to also blow it dry, because the second part of the haircut is always in the blow dry, then going back in and texturizing and fixing anything that you may have left long. Now, I tend to cut a little bit long, especially around here. I don't want it sticking straight out. So once I get it dry, I can come back in here and work with the exposure of the ear, or in the top. You cut it a little long, and then I can bring it down to where it's going to spike out. So we're going to have a little attitude up here, attitude here, weight line here, asymmetrical line to come all the way around to, you can see to where it's going to be on the long side, and as we go through, so we're going to cut all of this off through here and come around to the long side on this mannequin. And the reason we're using a mannequin is because we can screw it up pretty good and still get by with it. If we mess up with a model, hey, there ain't no second chances. Now, I don't need them, but you might, just for safety's sake, learn how to use these mannequins and cut and use them as a tool for yourself so that you can have a better hair cutting experience, okay? The more you practice, the better you be. Every time you're not doing something in that school, sitting in a chair, talking on the phone, using your phone other than what we're doing here today, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You need to spend every moment you can practicing your hair cutting skills, practicing your color skills, practicing your blow dry skills. Because blow drying is an art, believe it or not. You can do it very easily if you just go ahead and practice on a daily basis. It doesn't just jump on you and you know all this stuff. You don't just do it one time and you know it. You do it over and over and over until it becomes second nature to you. And you'll hear me say that in every class I do. Because I truly believe that practice will make you perfect. And it'll make you successful in when you get your salon. And by the way, if you do decide to get a salon and you're interested in doing in promotion with your salon, text us, relay that information to us, and we'll put you to the right people that will be able to maybe help you get a website that's inexpensive enough for you to get started in the business. Because what we want to do is when we graduate you, make sure that you're successful going forward. Okay? Do we have any questions or anything, Rachel?
We do have a couple people wanting to say hello to Jerry.
Hello.
We have Stacy.
Stacy, hello, how are you?
And we have Daniel Wright. And Miss Margie.
And Margie. Hello, girls.
And Mike Johnson.
Those
hello,
are mothers,
Mike.
Well, two of them are mothers. Danielle is not a mother yet, but she certainly honors her mother. So we're going to kind of pretend this is Mother's Day all over again, right here, okay? Any other questions?
If you guys are joining us, go ahead and say hello. Let us know where you're from. Mike Johnson says that you're looking good there.
That's my son. You better say that. Okay, here we go. I hope all our students in the schools are tuned in and watching this, and we'll be doing this on a regular basis. We'll be showing and telling as we go forward here throughout the whole rest of this year. And if it looks good, we'll continue on. So we'll have always continuing education for all of you to be learning a few extra things, and stay with us after you leave school, because this is important stuff. This is stuff I do in the salon, Mario does in the salon, and had done for years. So let's start out with this haircut. First thing we're going to do, now we parted it off. You can see I've taken it from the top of the ear here to around just behind the other side. So we're going to go from short to longer. We're going to keep that in mind now. Now what we're going to do is direct everything up, and again I'm cutting with the razor. Come straight up from the head and make the cut. Now I'm going to take everything straight out, keeping my hand perpendicular to the, not perpendicular, horizontally, parallel, parallel is the word, parallel to the parting. Going to drag everything straight up, come straight out, and make that cut. Now we don't have to worry about what's long. You notice that when I take everything from here up to this weighted line, this hair is going to be left longer. And we want to do that, because if we comb it down right here, we're going to get a softer feeling to this back. Now, there's different ways that you can do this. You can take and shave this entire thing, which seems to be a popular thing going on right now, develop another weight line, and then go from there. So you have two different dimensions that you can work with. Today, I'm going to use a softer version, because I believe you can get a real good soft version with everything with the razor. And that's what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and make this cut.
We have a question. What sections are you using on the mannequin?
Well, I sectioned that area out from this parting to this parting. I took a secondary section in through the occipital all the way to the other side. I sectioned out the crown, the sides, and the whole right side or long side separately. And I'll show you why I did that as we get through it, because I'm going to reestablish another guideline from this point over to this point, and then take everything back to it, creating automatic layering. So as we get to that, I'll go ahead and explain that. So now I'm going to take everything and move around the hair, the customer. Now what you want to do is you don't want to stand over here. Now I'm doing that in some cases so you can see, so I don't block your vision. but most of the time you want to be in front of your work. And I'm going to go ahead and make this cut. Moving it on through. And keeping my hand parallel to the parting again. Thank you, Mario. And we're going to drag everything straight up. And we give it a little bit of smoothness, just lightly touching it with the razor. Nice sharp razor. And that way we'll have a little bit softer line. Now if you do it with the shears, you're going to have a more difficult situation with it. Mario, give me that comb. Here you go. Thank you.
We have Hearst is on, Albuquerque. Hi, Sharon and team over at Albuquerque.
Hey,
And
nice
New
to have you
Mexico.
guys. Now, what we've done, as you can see right here, we've established the guideline right through here. This is the weight line. Now, none of this is, all this we're going to be reestablishing and recutting, depending on what we want the final outcome to be. So the next step now is to go ahead and simply drop down. First, keep the hair very wet. Drop down a section, right like that. Twist it and keep it out. Keep your work neat. You'll find it a lot easier to work if you do that. And then we're going to drop down another section from here to here, connecting. You don't want to do too much because I want to build that weight up as we go forward. And we're just going to pin that up. Drop this hair down. Now we're going to go back to the front, and we're going to take our hand and we're going to create everything. We're going to keep it at a low elevation. Going to identify the guide, and maybe with one finger elevation on it, we're going to create the weighted area. We want to keep that hair wet again.
Now, how much length are you taking off, and how important is your body position to?
Well, the body position is very important because you have to remain parallel to this parting,
Okay.
and that will keep you on track. As far as the amount of hair I'm taking off depends on the length of the hair, obviously, but all I'm going to be worrying about right now is building up this weighted area. Now, I also left it a little long around the ear. Why? Because like people, mannequins' hair will jump up. And what you don't want to do is have it too short. So we'll go back after we dry it and we'll just cut this out when we can control the hair better. So all I'm going to do now, keep my hand parallel to the parting. We're going to take it down. I'm about one finger off of the scalp. I want to identify the guide, and now with the razor I'm going to go ahead and actually just lay it in there and do a little bit of texturizing as I go. Okay, you see now we're starting to build up that weight. Here we're going to take everything back up, identify the guide, there it is. Take your hand and go ahead and bring it on through. Now I'm going to keep moving my body in conjunction with the hair, with the parting, excuse me. So I'm going to let that razor do the work. Don't worry about it. Just let it do the work for you. Now you can see how we're moving. And we're going to continue on around till we're over here at the end of the story here. Now remember, I said we're going to go back into this back area right here. You can do it or not do it, but I'm going to come back and cross cut it, take it like so, and try to take this back a little tighter. But let's build up the weight line a little bit more, because now we're going to carry this weight line forward here, and as we drop down this section, we'll continue on and have the long section work. Now I can go ahead and drop down this entire section here in the back, because you can see the weight line building up. And I'm going to drop it down, hold my hand low, and make the cut. Well, I'm going to use that when it dropped on the towel. Don't listen to me, guys. All your teachers are cringing right now.
Hi, Austin. We have Austin who just joined us.
Hi, Austin. How you doing? Glad to have you. We're going to go ahead and take it on through and move it right on around, keeping my hand parallel to the parting. And now you can start to see what we've created here. You can start to see the weighted area and the design coming through. Without that design, you don't have a strong asymmetrical. So you need that weighted area to create this strong asymmetrical. Now, if you look at it, you can look at it right here. You can see it right on through. Now let's go ahead and take this next section down, because really all I got to do is continue this process, and I can take larger sections of hair if I choose to.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Michael. We have all of Plano just checked in as well. They're watching. And then we have a question. Do you always cut above your fingers with a razor? And why do you do that? What's the importance of that?
Well, one is I don't want to cut myself trying to do it the other way. But two is I have a little bit more control of the razor when I can see it above my fingers. And the answer is most of the time yes. But sometimes no, I can come in from behind. It just depends on the situation. In this situation, I want the hair to build up. So I want to control that weighted area. Now you can see that. I want to control where that hair is, and we're doing a pretty good job of it. And you can see that I'll come back in here and take all of this out around the hair line, and this will be our short side. There's a lot more to go on here. So I still want to keep it a little bit soft. Make sure that I got it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop down this crown section in pieces. We'll probably divide it in two. I don't have to cut it completely at one time. Although to be honest with you, we could do that if we wanted to. It's a little bit more control for you to go ahead and cut this, make sure that this whole section gets in correctly. So smaller sections have a little bit more control over them. As you get better and better, you can go ahead and do it with larger sections. And you'll see me use larger sections in a little bit when I do the top and start with the interior layering portion. So I'm going to go ahead and move it. Move it, move it, move it.
Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you. We have Miss Kathy Young.
Oh, glad to have you, Kathy. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to, before we get that last layer, I want to take a little bit of texturizing off. Now, it's better not to texturize the top layer, because then you're going to get little short ones when you blow dry it. You got to control those, and that's not always fun. So we're going to move right on around, and as I go around, I'm going to lay the hair flat. And remember, when you're working with the razor, 45 degrees is about your maximum cutting level. And that's the sharpest point that you want to work with. So you want to lay that razor flat, then move it up a little bit until it's taken out a little bit, and be cautious about how much you're taking out. So better to take out a little than it is to too much, because you can take out more off, but you can't grow it back very easy.
Hi, Brittany. Brittany just logged on. Brittany Turley.
Oh, Brittany.
And then we have Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Jacqueline.
Glad to have you.
She says, hi, Jerry. And then Karina says, Miss Franca says hello. She's a little busy.
Isn't that nice? Is she online with us?
Karina is. Miss Franca, she says she's busy.
She's busy? Too busy for me?
And then
Miss Franca's one of my most favorite people in the world. She is the hardest working instructor. I think I have a lot of good hard working instructors, but she is actually one of the best.
Where is she at? Miss Franca?
She's in El Paso, Texas.
Okay. And then we actually have a 2015 graduate that is on. Her name is Moni Barrett.
Glad to have you.
Hi.
Now we're going to drop all of this hair down, and what's left over, we're just going to, again, keep our hand low. Don't get up here like this, because the more you get up, the more graduation you're going to get. So you want to keep your hand low, and let's build that weighted area up. Let's go ahead and build it up. Now I'm not doing as much texturizing right now in the top, because I don't want to lose too much, take out too much in the top so that I get too many little ones going on. Because what you're doing is you're cutting different lengths here to texturize. And that's a good thing, because you'll get more control of the hair. And as you can see, moving right on around, and we're going to go around to the front here in just 1 minute. Now you can see what we've done. You go look at it real good. Now we have choices to make here. We can start bringing this area in real tight, cut it real close. I could section this off right here and just razor it right out, or clipper it right out and get rid of it. Or we can just kind of fit it in and have it be kind of long and fringy, which is what I'm going to attempt to do here. So let's go ahead and let's do this next portion here and go ahead and set up. I'll turn the mannequin around and set up our next section here, which will be the long side. So we have the short side, and now what we want to do is the long side. Now when we do the long side, we're going to do it from about this point right here, right along the chin line, because I don't want it too long, and basically I want to use something about like that across the front of the head. So I'm looking at a line where the short area comes right across to the long area. You kind of got to eyeball it a little bit, but you definitely want a difference. You definitely want the long side accentuating the short side, or vice versa. So let's go ahead and we're going to wet this down here real quick.
Miss Tanya says hello.
Yeah.
And then Jacqueline, is she the one that does the nails? Jacqueline, let me know if you're the one that does the nails. She's wanting to know if that's Mario in the background.
That is.
That is Mario.
That is the boy.
And then Margie says TDLR is in Hearst doing a visit, senior presentation online in classroom, and looking very good, mister.
TDLR. Hello, TDLR. How are you? Glad to have you with us. If you like this, say so. Glad to have you with us. We're going to go ahead and direct everything down here. Now there's not a lot to cut off, but we're going to take it right on through the weighted area, and I'm going to come back over here just lightly with the razor, and then I'm going to, there again, let's not be too hasty. We can take more off anytime. Putting it back on is a little more difficult. So in the adjustment period, in which I'll show you a little later on in the hour, is when we want to go back and clean up. Now at this point, we would want to go ahead and do a little bit of texturizing. Little bit. Don't get too crazy. We just want to soften that line. And what that does is allow the hair to release a little bit better. So we're going to take those clamps out. We're going to go ahead and wet the hair down. The other thing about this, I can't emphasize to you enough how important it is to keep this hair moist. You know, and we set this up yesterday, and so we've got a little bit of a challenge here. We're going to go ahead and diagonally part, put a diagonal part. We're going to drop this down, make sure we got all the hair going in the same direction, and we're going to pick it up over here on our weighted area, and we're going to take it right on through. Right on through to the long side. So you can kind of see what we're getting. It's starting to come together for us. And again, I'm cutting off a very little bit, and I'm really softening the hair. Now when I cut it with the shears, I'll get a completely different feeling to it. It'll be a very strong line, and it'll be more strong. But in this case, we want a soft line. All right, now still we got to go back here and tighten up the back. That's still part of what we're going to do. Now, we're going to go ahead and direct all this hair. One more section. Going to take it all back. And we're going to wet it down to make sure we get nice and moist, so we can control the hair a lot better if we do that.
Margie wants to know, how do you texturize with a razor?
How do I what?
How do you texturize with a razor?
Let me demonstrate that for you. I got one section here I could do that. And essentially, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I do it as I cut the hair. As I come through, I look at and I start to feel heavier spots in the hair. Now I want to be careful not to feel this heavy spot that we created and cut it off. But above it, we want to do a little bit of texturizing. So here I'm going to come off the head. I'm not going to cut on the ends. I'm going to come off of it. I'm going to lay the razor flat on the hair. And then I'm going to slightly turn it up. Slightly turn it up. Now, we can hold it out a little bit more. Bring the hair straight down. And I'm going to, again, slightly turn it up. Now you can see that much hair is coming up. You can always take off more, folks, so don't get crazy. If I lay the razor flat on the hair, it's cutting nothing. As I tilt it just slightly, remember I told you 45 degrees is the angle at which you want to have this be a maximum cutting angle. And then you can kind of, as you get closer, in mannequins a lot of times the hair is a little bit thicker along the sides. So you have to think about doing something like that and going ahead and texturizing. And I'm doing more towards the ends at this point. So that's what I do with the razor. I'm going to lay it flat, then turn it up as I move down the hair shaft. Now we're going to take the rest of this section here, and we're going to distribute it across the rest of the hair, the head. Let's go ahead and bring it all back. Now what we want to do is make sure that we've got plenty of hair to work with, because I'm going to do a lot of work in the front. Another way you can texturize is if you think you need it, which I'm thinking I might, is to go back up here, especially in the front, hold the hair straight up, and start from the back. If you want to just texturize a little bit, and do it very uneven. You don't want it just one spot. You want it uneven so you can't even tell it. So let's go ahead and take some more. We're going to just meet up our short side. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to get around to the front. I'm not going to cut anything in the front at the moment. But you can see that our asymmetrical hairstyle is starting to take place. Now, there are two things. One is, remember I told you we wanted to take care of the back. So I still haven't made up my mind. You guys got any ideas about whether we want to keep that softness in the back, or we want to cut it real dynamic, or any ideas on that? let's take a vote.
Yeah, give us some ideas, guys. While we're waiting for some ideas, Jacqueline, she's the one, Jerry, she actually has I think Jacqueline just graduated a couple months ago. She did nails, and she has a great Instagram account. So she's doing really good. She also says that Jerry needs some man jewelry. He's giving me a Miami Beach vibe.
Say that again.
You're giving off a Miami Beach vibe.
A Miami Beach vibe.
Maybe your pink shirt.
It's
and
not
your
a bad
tan.
place to be, is
Yes.
it? Well, all right.
Pearl loves your razor use. We have a vote in for put a weight line extreme in it from Margie.
So what do we want to do now here in the back? I'm going to tilt the head forward, and I can tell you what I would do. I'm going to cut it and fitted, and then leave it soft on the long side. So I'm going to cut it tight through here, and fit it into this weighted area. See, like that? Can you guys see the weight? You can see it right there. And then I will leave this soft and fringy. So it'll go from, we had the short side to the long side. Now we're going to go back to the short side to this long side and get a little artistic here. Is that all right?
Yes.
Does that sound good?
We have Austin was wondering if you have, oh, it went up. Do you have a guard on your razor?
No, I do not.
Okay.
No, I do not, but you use one.
Okay.
Because it takes you a little while. This happens to be a Casio razor, which is an excellent, excellent razor. You can see the blade is right there. You just need to learn to be very careful with it. And sometimes it's been said that you're really not cutting close enough unless you cut yourself. I don't know that y'all want to subscribe to that theory, but it has been said. So let's go back now and do the neckline. See, now here's where the area is. This is where we're going to be having the long side, and you can see we've got it going pretty good. So I want to come in here. Now with this mannequin, if I go real short, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to stick straight out. It's okay. So I'm going to try to fit this in somewhere along this line, okay? So I'm going to come off of this, see if I can fit this in. Hold my hand real low, real short strokes, and then I'm going to take it directly out and see if I can get that to blend in with the weighted area above it. So we're just going to fit it in. And you might want to take a little bit out of here so it doesn't, so it kind of breaks the hair down a little bit. So I'm going to do diagonal partings on a 45, coming against the grain here. Take this all back, find out where my weighted line is, and then go ahead and see if I can get that to move forward and get that all that hair moving from shorter to longer. Now, like I said, you can do a lot of different things with this basic design here. You can spike it out. You can cut it completely off, bald if you want to, right here in the back, or some version of it, and then do some design work. A lot of barbers do that. So there's nothing wrong with changing up once you have the basic premise of how to cut the asymmetrical in the first place. And it is not always easy. It's not always easy. Would you not say so, Mario?
Not always, never.
Not always, never easy, huh? So let's go through, and I'm going to take this all the way back. Now, as we get to this shorter side, the hair is shorter, obviously, from where the weight line was. And so now we have to kind of blend it in, coming back, directing it back to the center of the head, because if you direct it back to the center of the head, the hair from its origin is going to be longer. And that's what I want to do, is leave it longer in the around on the short side below the ear. Build it up. I see the weight line. Now we're looking pretty good, actually, I think.
So we have another comment. Do you have a guard on your razor? But what razor are you using? But we went over that. But do you want to repeat that again? Because you said you don't.
Yeah,
want
no,
the
I do
students-
not. I do not have a guard on my razor, but it is a, it's a very safe razor. It's a Casio razor. It costs about $300. This little razor here. So when you invest in tools, and you invest in some really high quality tools, you will definitely take good care of them, I can tell you. And this is a great razor. So I don't want a guard on it. In the schools, mind you, you will be required to have a guard on it. And you should. And you should. Like I said, practice, practice, practice. And part of practicing is learning how to cut with a razor and not cut yourself. Now I cut really close, and sometimes I'll get little nicks in my hand. Sometimes. But if you can do that, you're better off to cut with the razor, and I mean with the guard when you're cutting with the razor until you're really sure what you've got done. And this is a Casio razor, by the way, and I don't know if I said that already or not. Okay, here we go. We're getting toward the finish. Now see right here around the ear, and this softness right here is what I was trying to accomplish when we started out here. So now I'll go back in, and I might take the texturizing shears and cut around that area so that I can keep that weight line working through. And when we blow dry it, we'll see. The next thing I'm going to do now is I want to layer the interior. Now obviously I'm taking quite a while to do this because I'm talking as I cut. Now it would already be done if I wasn't talking, but I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are.
Michael Ladd says looks great, and a lot of people are agreeing that you need some man jewelry.
I need some what?
Some jewelry to go.
Man
with your,
jewelry?
Yeah, to go with your Miami vibe.
Is that right?
Maybe Margie needs to help. Margie can send that.
Okay.
Give them ideas.
What do I
guys.
need? Rings? A
Yeah.
pinky maybe?
You guys need to help out Jerry here.
Let's stay with the haircutting. So what I want to do now at this point, what I want to do is I want to offset. I want to have a little attitude right up here. Right what I do is draw a line down to the front of the ear, and I'm going to separate this hair clear over to just behind this other ear, the wrong side. Okay? So that's what I want to do. Now, I'm going to switch over to the shears. And I tell you why I'm going to do that. Because it's a little easier to cut this particular guideline with the shears than it is with the razor. So let me switch over at this point using another tool. We're going to address the back first. We're going to pull the hair straight up. Now you know that if you cut the hair off up here to a point where we can see it if it's going to fall, we want to keep our hand straight in relation to the head. So we want to keep right at the parting and our hand parallel to this parting, and then we're going to make the cut. Now, as we do that, we create that same situation that we had before with the more direct, hard surface haircut, hard surface into the shears, as you can see. Now, if we take all of this hair coming straight up, pull it straight up, it's going to get longer as we go forward. So let me demonstrate. I'm going to cut the short side first. We're just going to take another parting, direct it straight up into the top of the head, keeping my hand parallel to that parting, right up to the very top, and all we're going to do is take it off. Now what I'll do is come back with the texturizing shears and texturize that part of the hair, because I still want those ends to be soft. We're going to take everything all the way up, and it looks like we don't have any more to go. I'm going to bring all of this straight up to the top of the head, holding my hand nice and firm, and taking everything straight up and straight out to the top of the head. So I'm going to start bringing everything to the back, to the very top. And as I do that, the hair down here is now getting longer. So you can see that. You see that? So you might want to round it off. So let's bring everything, that's pretty much it at this point. Bring everything straight up and cut it off. Now what we hope to have is a little attitude right here where we can get that hair to stand up. Now what we're going to do is now take everything from the long side and direct it all the way back to this point, leaving the long side long, a little bit longer. The further it travels, the longer it's going to be. So let's do that. And direct the hair straight up. Come back to it and cut it off. So bring the hair all the way back. For those of you guys that are hearing that noise in the background, we're in the plant, the product company plant. So if we get a chance, I'm going to take you through a little tour of that, and so you can see what's going on back there.
So how important is it to hold your hand straight up?
Oh, it's very important. You want if you follow the head form, you're going to cut this all shorter here. We don't want that shorter yet. We want this longer. So we're going to direct everything back to this stationary guide right back here. Hold it up and cut it off. Bring everything back again. Take a large section. Mario, would you wet this down for me? I'm going to direct everything back to this stationary guide again, and cut off the long ones. Easy. Take it back again. Direct everything straight back to our stationary guide. So we're all bringing it right back to the crown area. Bringing it right back. And you can see all the hair in the front is longer. Here. There you are. So we haven't cut the length off at all. We've automatically layered everything right through. So we're going to do this again. And basically keep taking everything back to this stationary guide, all the way back to the crown area, bringing it back, nice and clean. When I say clean, we're going to smooth the hair with all the kinks and all the little hairs that have them all going in the same direction. So when we get back here and get ready to make a cut, it's relatively the same length, and we should have a nice even process going forward. Let's take it all back now, because we're running out of hair. Take it all the way back and cut off those few fringes. Now, we've left a lot of hair, nice and long in the front, so we can play with that all we want to. I'm going to take everything up here, make sure that we've got it all cut off, and bingo, we just may have a haircut. Straight out, holding your hand straight out, Let the curvature of the head determine the hair length for you. So the shorter you make it up here, the shorter it's going to be down here. The longer you make it, the less hair you're going to cut off, and the more heavy it's going to be. Now, we're going to take it all into the front. You can see what we've created. And then I'm going to blow dry it. And Mario's going to cut his creation over there. Now let's go ahead and go through. We're going to just trim off a few things here. Make sure our line is right on the money. And if you look at it dead on, the next thing we're going to do is one last thing. You can see this is not exactly the way we want it. I don't mind the other side, but I'm going to switch back to the razor. We're going to go ahead and direct everything this direction. And we're going to cut this front. Now what you want to do is be very careful about cutting the front. You want to leave yourself some room here. So we can get a little bit crazy. I'm going to texturize just a little bit because I want it a little softer around the edge. And you can see that. But I go along a little bit deeper and let the hair, after I dry it, I'll come back in and really set it up. Okay, so now we're going to take all of this hair, direct it forward. I'm going to have my hand right here. I'm standing off to the side, standing off to the short side. Now about eyebrow, I'm going to pivot my hand, pivot, 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 and then I'm going to cut straight down. All right? Again, pivot, and then cut straight down. Make sure we've got it all along, and then cut straight down. And there, we're starting to see what we're going to be winding up with. All right? The other thing is we'll have a little bit of attitude to work with back here. We're automatically layered. I'm going to take this off and show you.
How important is a pivot?
The what?
How important is...
It's extremely important. If you don't pivot, you'll be cutting way back here. So you need to take the hair. Let me show you that again. It's very important. You have to leave yourself some hair to work with. That's what's important. You can always, remember this, you can always cut it off. Growing it back, that's a little more difficult. But you can always cut it off. So you cut to the length close to what you want, but not too close. So we're going to, again, here's the pivot. I'm going to take this whole section of hair, and I've got it in my hands. Now I'm going to bring everything right to here. I'm putting my my forefinger on the top of the eyebrow. I'm going to use the mid-eye of this as my next cut. You see how much I've left there? Now if I do that, when I comb the hair back, I have hair to work with. If I don't do that and I cut it over here, I cut all this out. And that's what usually happens. That's the biggest mistake you can make, because now all the work you've done to create this asymmetrical look, you could ruin real quick by just cutting too much in there from that point. Now we can always go back in here, touch it up, play with it, work with the shears and the texturizing shears, and go from there. Let me show you again the automatic layering. It's automatic. You take hair from this side, bring it up to the top center, and you have automatic layering. See that? And you also can see the weighted area underneath, and see where you may want to go back. Now right here you can also see I've let this longer right here in the side. Now that's not going to blend. But here it is. Here is your layered look. All right? Now let's go back, and I'm going to go ahead and blow dry, because the haircut is not finished. Not even close yet. The haircut is not finished. The haircut is finished after you blow dry it. Go back in and texturize and fix up all the little places that you may have made a mistake. Not me, of course. But all of us make mistakes. All of us do. They're not mistakes. They're haircutting anomalies. It's going to do certain things to you when you use different techniques and different shears. You learn those about yourself, and you go back in and fix it. Like 90% of the time, we'll cut one side longer than the other if we're trying to get them even. 90% of the time you'll do that. So you always need to be looking back in the mirror and checking out those sides and making sure that you're even. And one way to do that is put a thumb, a finger, and a finger and see where they come. And a lot of times you'll be like this. So you'll know that when you dry the hair. You won't know that while the hair's wet. Okay? Any other questions for the moment?
Everyone says beautiful, beautiful, and Franca says my Italian family is watching.
That's my baby. That's my baby. I'm going to go ahead and use a couple of products here that I particularly like. One is high profile. I like to use high profile, and you notice that I spray it on liberally. You know, you can't use these things and just spray it on the top and think it's going to work. It's at the root regrowth that it's going to work best. It's at the regrowth that you're going to get the most volume out of the hair to get that hair up off the scalp and use it. So I use a little, what do you like, home
A lottle, a little but a lot.
You what?
Top notch.
There it is. That's high profile.
High profile.
So that's one of them that we use. The other ones are styling glaze, hot glacé to make the hair stronger, which is some of the samples that if you guys register on our website, we will be sending you out those free of charge, no freight to you. Just send it out and try it, use it, and get your free product. And that's our appreciation to you guys sitting in and listening to our show, our program. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mario. Y'all can see what we've got, see where we're headed. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we get it all dry and we can just cut it out and get real extreme if we want to, cut it out about a 1/4 inch above the eyebrow, and then get real extreme to it, but then we have the hair to do it. Correct? All right, any other questions?
Turn it over to Mario.
All right.
I want to introduce Mr. Mario.
All right. Hi, everybody.
My partner.
All right. So today what we did, I'm Mario from Hantzpro.com, and what we're going to be doing and going over today is a diagonal graduation. As you can see, I already cut half of the hair for you, and the best part about that is I can go ahead and do the other half, and it'll be simple for you guys to understand. The first thing that I need to go over, though, is sectioning. Anytime that you guys do a graduated bob or any graduated haircut, the sectioning is the most important thing. Just like had Jerry said on his sectioning, you gotta see the sectioning in mine as well. Now, so as I turn the head over here, you can see how the graduation sits on the lower part of the head. You can change the graduation depending on where you part it. So that's why I'm gonna explain to you guys the importance of where to section. Now, there's two bones in the head that are very important. Now, you saw Jerry earlier when he uses his comb and he puts the comb on top of the head. That's going to tell you where the highest point of the head is. That's the pivot point, right? So, the next point that I want to say is called the parietal ridge. So, if I turn the mannequin this way, if I'm flat here and I'm flat here, wherever the comb teeter-totters, like when you're a kid, a teeter-totter, right at that point, that will tell you that's where your parietal ridge is. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and section that right at the parietal ridge. Always keep your mannequin wet. Okay? We're going to go ahead and we're going to section that right on the parietal ridge. As you can see, I'm going to take it from the middle, not touching the...
Okay.
Okay, so where we were at was when we get the bridle ridge section, as you can see, nice and clean. From here to here is what you're going to take out. That's your bridle ridge section. That's the first section that you will be taking out when you do your graduation. Now the second section that's very key is your occipital section. So this is your bridle ridge. Your occipital bone is here. And if you can see on mine, everybody has this curve in the head. The curve is very important to understand because that's your occipital bone. The occipital bone is key here because, again, as I showed you on this side, you see how the weight sits heavier and lower. If I take that second section and the second section is below the occipital, then that weight's going to sit heavier. If I take the section a little higher than the occipital, then the weight's going to sit a little higher, and so forth. It's very key that you guys understand that when you're cutting graduation. Make sure that you're right at the occipital bone, under the occipital bone, or above the occipital bone. That's what's going to give you your graduation and what the best feel for your haircut. Making sure that we section out this hair nice and clean, as you can see here. The cleaner your sections are, the easier your haircut's going to be, and the faster and the longer the haircut will last. Making sure you seclude that hair out real nice and clean there. And what you have left is this bottom section. Now, I'm going to be using a shear today, and these are the shears I'm going to be using. You guys can get these on Hantzpro.com. They're a Costco shear. Okay? It depends on the size of your hand. I typically like to use a shear when you're doing graduation. If you look at the size of your hand, and if it's the length of your hand from this side to this side, that's a good size. You don't ever want to use anything longer on graduation. It's always good to use this size of blade. If you use a longer blade, it's more for layering. So that will help you with your scissor choice. A lot of people have a question about scissors and what type of shear is better for them to use. And I think it's always important that you always measure it first. Do we have any questions?
Any questions?
If not, that's okay. Our first section, what we're going to do here, again, diagonal. If you're taking diagonal sections, what diagonal sections do is push weight. So if you can see my comb here and my section, it's the same thing. If I drop a piece of water, a drop of water here, the water is going to go forward. Just like your haircut, if you take a diagonal section, the weight's going to push forward. If I was to take a horizontal section and I was to graduate the hair horizontally, that is at graduation. Same thing with my comb. If I put a drop of water right here, the water is going to stay there and it's going to create heavy graduation. If you don't want a heavy graduated haircut, then you have a choice and you could do a vertical section. Now I can show you vertical section. If I pull the hair out here and you can see where my guide's at and I hold the hair vertical right there, that's going to take the most weight out. So when you're deciding what kind of graduation to do and what sections to do, you have to do that rule of thumb. If I take a vertical section, I drop water here, the water's gone. That's taking the weight out. So very important that you guys understand that. I'm going to take one diagonal section here, and I'm going to grab just a little bit of my guide, and I'm going to cup it just slightly so I can see where my guide's at. Now watch how I hold my fingers. Very key here when you guys comb, that you're not pulling this way or that way. Make sure that you're 1 foot forward and you're here right at the base of the head. So you can see my knuckles are touching the neck. And you can see I can see my guide there. And we're going to go ahead and cut right there. Nice and clean. Nice cut. Open those shears. You see how I have that blade opening? That shear has to open all the way. You cannot sit there and baby cut your haircut, because what it does is it pushes and it starts to make the haircut longer. And when Jerry was explaining to you guys earlier about, sometimes I get one side longer than the other, a lot of that is from how you're handling your shear. You have to make sure that you keep that blade completely open and closing, that you're not chewing at it. When you chew at it, it creates longer hair. Okay, we're going to continue here. Diagonal section. You guys can see my section right there, nice and clean. And I'm going to match that right there. Nice clean cut. Some of you might say, well, why are you cutting past your second knuckle? Well, there's two things that you got to be careful about cutting the second knuckle. First, cutting yourself. Well, I don't really care if you cut yourself, but I do care. What's important about is how you hold the shear. If you're going past that second knuckle, you're going to lose that tension. So if I put my comb here, you can see I could pull the comb out. If I put the comb here, I can't pull the comb out. So watch that. You know, sometimes everybody has slightly bad habits, so try not to do that. Okay, we're here. We're going to pull the hair straight out. You can see my guide there. I'm going to cut, and I'm not going to cut past the second knuckle this time, so you guys can see. We're right here. Perfect. Nice, clean sections. That's what you want to see. If you have a little hair, you can take that out. One more section here. Bring my section back. Now, a lot of people, what happens at this point, a lot of people when you guys are first cutting your graduated haircuts, you like to bring this hair slightly this way. It's very, very, very important, and it took me a long time to understand this. If you're not careful with this hair right behind the ear, and you pull this hair here, what's going to happen is you're going to create a hole in that haircut. And I'm sure a lot of us have done that. I've done it, everybody has done that. So it's important that when you get to your last section, you put your comb down if you put your thumb. Just like Jerry and I have been saying all day, we've been showing you how to put your comb. If you put your comb right there, right at the ear, right behind the ear, that'll tell you exactly where that hair needs to be. If you pull that hair anywhere outside that comb, like this, then the hair is going to be a hole in there. You don't want that. So you want to make sure that you keep the hair here, bring it back in low elevation, and you cut right there, nice and clean. Clean haircut, clean as you could be, right there. Okay? Now, again, you want to make sure that you keep your mannequin moist, damp all the time, which takes us into our second section. You can start to see as you cut hair, you want to make sure that you go in there and you kind of groom that hair and you kind of tap it, and you can see that the shape already started to shape. Now, the good thing is when you're doing someone's hair in the salon, you know, you guys might not be great at showmanship, and it's not so much that you're showing off, but when you're in the salon, you have to make it look like you're so much into this haircut that it's God's gift to everybody's haircut. So you got to make sure, if you look at it, you step back, you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, you really look at this haircut, and you show her that you really care about her hair, because clients will see that. So when you're going to your next section, make sure you take your clips out, comb that hair into the natural state, okay? And you can start to see where that shape starts to form there. Again, I'm going to take diagonal sections because we're pushing weight. We're bringing that hair back to the same guide, back and down. If you're confused of where to hold your hands, put your comb down. Just like I said, that'll tell you where to hold the hair. If I hold it here, that'll tell you where to hold it. So I'm here, and we're going to go ahead and match the guide. As you can see, don't cut past the second knuckle. And we complete that nice and clean. And that's what we want to see. Now there, I see how I flip the comb sometimes. I always use the bigger end first, okay? Then I flip back to the tighter end. That's going to keep my graduation the maximum shape by using that tighter end. A lot of times also what I see when you guys, when I go into the schools, I see when you're using your guide and your comb, you have to get well practiced, and it's only good practice to make sure that when you put your comb in the hair, that your fingers are directly behind it. You have to push that comb up. If you saw the last video, I made sure that you need to push that comb and pull at the same time. What that does is it creates tension in the hair, and it allows the haircut to get as clean as possible. And we're right there, nice and clean. And you can see all that hair. If the hair is shiny, the shining is good. You got to make sure that that hair is real nice and shiny, and I'll explain that to you in just a second. When you take, I'm going to say the shine method, when I take a section diagonally, I pull that hair straight back. I have to make sure, again, if you wet the comb, it's a lot easier for you and the client. You're not spraying her face, you're not spraying all over her clothes. Spray the comb first, then get that to the hair. And as you can see here, I'm going to pull this hair back, and you can see that shine in the hair. If it's not shiny, then you're not holding it right. If you hold it here, it doesn't shine. It starts to shine over here. If you hold it here, it won't shine. So the shine method is right there, and you're keeping it right at where you need to be. That will tell you exactly how to hold that hair. That, and also the comb. Graduation is all about position and tension. So making sure that you keep that all consistent throughout your haircut. And that's nice and clean. We're going to take this all back in one section. You can bring this all back to where you need to be. And this is called a stationary guide at this point. And what that allows it is it allows it to be longer. When you guys are first cutting hair, everything's in your book. If you guys take the time to read the book and compare it to how you're cutting hair, it'll explain to you that when stationary guides, you pull the hair back, it creates length. So those are key terms that I just told you, and it should be on your test also. So keep that in mind. Nice light tension, and I'm gonna lower this and I'm gonna cut above my finger. Now, if I cut above it, that's just saving my finger so I don't cut it. Okay? So, as you can see here, I'm gonna bring it back to natural state. And you can start to see how that graduation is starting to form. Now again, you always wanna cup it, you know, look at the client, make sure she knows that you're still into it, that you talk to your clients. You have to make sure that you're explaining to them what products you're using all the time. If you're quiet with your client, that's not good. Best practice is to explain to them everything that you're using on their hair. And it starts from the shampoo bowl all the way into when you're doing the haircut.
That's an interesting point, Mario, because you know, when I was working behind the chair full time, I would tell customers how to do the perm, exactly how it works, exactly what happens with it. And lo and behold, you know what that did? They gave them confidence in me, because they're not in there to do it themselves.
Absolutely.
They're in there for us to do it.
I know it.
But I would explain to them every single process. People used to say, "Why would you do that? They don't want to go home and do it themselves." I said, "Good luck." So I said, they can't do it themselves, or they wouldn't be here.
And I still don't enjoy doing burns, but it's all right.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
I want to tell you what I've come up with here. Now, this is one version of this asymmetrical. It's not the one I'm going to end up with. But you talk about some attitude here.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to texture out all of this right in here, and then I'm going to flat iron it. Now, one thing about blow drying, you don't need to waste a ton of time blow drying. If you've got the cut in, the hair's going to go where it belongs. And what you want to do is make sure you get it out from the scalp. Because if you're going to flat iron it afterwards, which I am, that's going to direct where the hair's going to wind up. So you want to dry it. You want to dry it from the scalp out. In this case, you know, these mannequins get beat up pretty good. I use a little shining touch to bring back some life to it and get a little bit of shine. And now I'm going to go back in and really fine tune it. I'm going to cut the sides out here, and I'm going to use the texturizing shears to just cut out this side and maybe soften it up right there. But you can see where we've got it pretty soft, pretty good, and we have our weight line right in here. And then when I do it with the flat iron, you'll see me build that weight line all the way up, all the way through, and into the front.
That's a great haircut.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all.
So let's just do that, and I'll let you take it over again. Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay, I got it. So where we're at here is, and I like that, Jerry, because it's like we're doing a stage show, so it's good. So what we're done with is everything above the parietal ridge. So I'm going to bring that down. If you didn't see that before, I put it back in the clip for you. We're going to bring that last section down, and again, you have to make sure that you wet your comb. Try not to wet the client. Very key there. And you have your hair nice and moist for you to get onto your next section. Again, diagonal sections, you're bringing everything back and to your original guide here. As you can see here, I still have that guide nice and clean. We're going to take that off. Second section. You can take this all in one section, or you could take it in multiple sections, just depending on how much hair you feel comfortable with. Again, what Jerry said earlier about practice, you cannot take all this hair at once if you're not good with your, have a good command of the comb and the scissor. You have to make sure that you clean all that hair up, and you can see right there, if I can get a close up on here, if I put the hair up, that's buckled, that's wrong. That here is perfect, right here is too much. So that's what's called the shine method, as I said before, and we're going to go ahead and continue that. And all we have left is just that one section. We have one more section here, and I'm going to pull all that back together. All of this comes back. One last section. And I'm glad that we are almost done here so we can focus on Jerry with the flat iron, because he's really good with that flat iron. It's not my favorite tool, but I could be better. Again, like we said, practice, practice, practice. And we're going to go ahead and finish that. That's all I have all on that side. And we make sure that we bring this hair back and we check the shape. You have to understand how to cup hair. If you're not learning how to cup hair properly, you cannot check your shape very well. And what I mean by cupping, you see how I go in and I tap that comb in there, or I could come underneath and I can make it kind of go bend under. You have to see that shape or you won't be able to see it from the beginning. So you can start to see I have that shape done on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and get into it with a blow dryer on this side so then I can match the shape. And then if we get back to it, I'll show you how to finish this haircut on the ends, okay? And I'll be back shortly.
Well, what I'm doing right now is I'm going ahead and just kind of tidying things up a little bit. I haven't gone into it with the flat iron yet, but you can see that we know, make sure that we've got a good design going with it and that everything is fitting in like we hoped it would. And even going in here and taking out some more hair if we wish to further strengthen that weighted area, if it works for us. It's not going to hurt anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and texture with the shears, the texturizing shears. You notice I use all the